Every living organism we see, touch, or hear has a structure and a function to work as it does. Its structure is defined by the shape and the way the systems are arranged and how they function in order to make the organism survive and maintain homeostasis. Which is why it is very important for us to be aware of how we and organisms that surround us each day work and stay alive.
Structure and function have many branches. Some are directly connected with medicine, such as anatomy, physiology, pathology, and pathophysiology. It is worth mentioning that organization is the most important part in the characteristics of the structure of the body.
Taxonomy. The classification of species are hierarchical. It comes from the Greek root taxis, which means arrangement, and from nomos, that means law. This is how species are classified. First, by kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species.
The control center, which is the brain, is the place where everything is directed from, the headquarters of the body, where decisions are made. It is also the library and learning center.
Species can be classified by similarities throughout their skeleton, even if they don't look similar on the outside. For example, a badger and a cat. They share a similar skull structure but differ enough to be classified as different species.
Comparative anatomy is the science which looks at the similar characteristics that different species develop or keep after evolving.
Bones. Vertebrates have a rigid body tissue, which is a conglomeration of cells and calcium phosphate. Bodies are made up to adapt and evolve on different environments through stimuli. Humans. We are made up of many systems to keep homeostasis that are made up by organs, which are made up by tissues that organized cells make up. Humans have two main cavities, which are the ventral cavity and the dorsal cavity.
The ventral cavity. The ventral cavity houses three main compartments. The first is the thoracic cavity, which houses your chest, heart, and trachea. The second is pleural cavity, is where your lungs are. And finally is the abdominopelvic cavity, which contains your reproductive organs.
And the dorsal cavity, which has the axial and appendicular skeleton. And these two parts keep your brain and your spinal cord in place.
The well-being of the body depends on maintaining everything under control and stable. This optimal condition is called homeostasis. The body responds to stimuli through feedback loops, positive and negative. For instance, if the body feels cold, it shivers.
Plants. The basic plant has three main parts: roots, stems, and leaves. These are the three main organs that constitute the vegetative or non-reproductive plant body. The stem and its leaves attached constitute the shoot system, and the roots make up the root system.
Roots are the anchor of the plant. They absorb minerals and water. There are two types, the primary, which grows downwards, and the secondary roots, which are the feet. They expand outwards.
The stem is a very important part to the plant that bears leaves and flowers and conducts water and minerals from the roots and food from the site of synthesis to areas where it is needed. The main stem of a plant is connected to the root system through a transition region called the hypocotyle. The area where a leaf is attached to the stem is called a node. The leaves. The basic plant leaf is composed of a leaf base, two stipules, the petiole, and the blade. The leaf base is the area where the leaf is attached to the stem. The two stipules, when present, are located on each side of the leaf base and may resemble scales, spines, glands, or leaf-like structures.
Animals are multicellular. organisms with specialized cells grouped into tissues that make up organs, thus creating organ systems. Humans fall into the animal category, but they have many features which make them unique, such as the way of communication, walking, and many other things. Tissues. There are four types of tissues: epithelial tissue, which covers the outside of the body and lines organs; connective tissues, which support other tissues; nervous tissue, which senses stimuli and responds to it; and finally the muscle tissue, which are elongated fibers that can contract when nerves are stimulated. They are divided into three groups: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth.
Animals. An animal's size and shape are often called its body plan, which is the result of a pattern of development programmed by the genome. Physical requirements constrain what natural selection makes, including the size of single cells. An animal's size and shape have a direct effect on how the animal exchanges energy and materials with its surroundings. The internal environment. Homeostasis is interplay between outside forces that tend to change the internal environment and internal control mechanisms that oppose such changes. Any homeostatic control system has three functional components: a receptor, a control center, and an effector.
Metabolic rate. The amount of energy an animal uses in a unit of time is called metabolic rate. It can be determined in many ways. Two of them are monitoring an animal's heat loss and determining the amount of oxygen consumed or carbon dioxide produced. Knowing how our body works is very important in life to determine what's good for me or not. Basic concepts such as these help maintain a healthy and well informed society for a better living and prosperity for all. Now that you know the principal things that make you look in a certain way, react, and stay alive, you can see how important one structure and its function keeps us and all of the organisms we see daily alive. This is very important because even though we never think about this and all of this is inside our minds, we couldn't live without this.
Created using Powtoon.